We're back with the last part of our club preview series going through Sydney, West Coast, and the Bulldogs.
Come on!
Hello and welcome back to Off the Mark, an AFL Fantasy podcast. I'm Mason.
And I'm Casey, and it's good to be here at the end of our club previews, finally getting through them all.
Exactly. It's taken a lot longer than I thought we would, but you know what? We've gone in depth. We've mentioned a lot of players, we're just giving you the best information.
Exactly, I like it. And we've got 3 more clubs, and not too fantasy relevant, but there's a few good things hidden in them, so we'll be able to pick the right stuff.
No. Well, I know you're excited today. I can see the Guernsey. You're very excited to talk about your Eagles.
Do love the Eagles.
I'm not as excited. Sydney and the Bulldogs don't excite me as much, especially with that round 3 bye. There's not a whole lot to really be excited about in terms of starting picks, I guess. But we'll still go through them. And then after this, obviously later this week, we'll be with you with our positional previews, going through defenders, midfielders, rucks, forwards, talking more about structure, less about players, but still mentioning some guys. Because way back when we did Adelaide, Brisbane, Carlton, Collingwood, I'm sure half of those players are injured or irrelevant now. So,
yeah.
And we've added some new ones, so we'll be updating you with all that. But without further ado, let's kick it into Sydney. Who's my club. So let's look at what they did last year, and we'll look at their CBAs first. They held a pretty tight CBA rotation. So Heaney was the main guy in there with 467, followed very closely. These 3 were very close in Warner, Rowbottom, and James Jordan with 368, 321, and 305 CBAs respectively. Obviously, Errol Goulden came in for a little bit when he came back from injury, but he was kind of only sitting around that 15 to 20% anyway. Playing on a wing. I'm not sure if that was injury management or whether that was just what they're going to play him as. James Jordan did have a lot of CBAs during that time that he had come back though, so maybe that's something they're willing to persist with. I don't know if they're going to tag again this year. I would assume they will with specific clubs, but that'll just have to be a wait and see for the preseason. Angus Sheldrick also popped his head in there for 168, so he could see an increase possibly, but I don't really see this changing much. And the ins and outs haven't changed this much either, so I would say that's going to be pretty similar. If we look to their kick-ins, so the kick-ins are really interesting. Nick Blakey is the main guy back there, obviously, with 115 kick-ins last year. Then it goes all the way down to Matt Roberts on 41, who kind of came out of favour at the end of the year. Dropped after round 20 and didn't make his way back into the side, so missed the last 4 games. Played a bit of EFL, I think. So it'll be interesting to see whether they do still use him. He also didn't have a kick-out after their round 14 bye. Played 6 games without a kick-out, so maybe I think from memory, they played him up on like a wing more sort of, didn't they? Or like a bit further up the ground. Yeah, so maybe they're willing to keep going with that. But Callum Mills was the one who overtook from him after the round 14 bye, with 40 kick-ins for the year as well. And obviously Riley Bice had some more so in the early part of the year. So I could see that continuing. I would like to see someone take some more up with Blakey at that 115. And the guy for me, I'll keep him a surprise. We'll talk about him a little bit later with our ins and outs. But there is a guy that could possibly take some of that for them if they don't persist with Roberts and Bice, which I think they probably still could. With the rucks, it's pretty simple. It's Grundy. He'll just do what he did again this year. I know that he is an option for some people, and again, I'll talk about him later. Laddams and McLean were the backups. They'll continue that this year. Just Laddams coming in if Grundy is injured, and McLean playing as a forward there. Obviously, they gained Charlie Curnow this year. I don't see him playing any ruck time he didn't at Carlton, so that won't improve his scoring, unfortunately. But let's go to the ins and outs and look towards this year. So Jai Sarong is actually a bigger in than I think a lot of people are making a deal out of from Hawthorn. You would think that he plays, and I think he's a lock for me in my side. I hope that he's able to overtake guys like Ollie Florence, who's left, so maybe take some of his game time. He left on 16 games with an average of 60, and I think he could overtake Matt Roberts and Riley Bice. He's 22 years old. He hasn't played too many games, but he looks to be kind of ready to play, and the Swans obviously sought out him to play in that role. They're kind of missing a guy there next to Blakey, so hopefully he can take that. He's a 270k defender, so rookie price. and he's definitely locked into my side. Harry Kyle was a pick 14, 298k defender mid. It's a no for now. I haven't heard much of him, but obviously he's pick 14, so he could play at some point. So just keep an eye on that name. There's Billy Cootie, Javan Philippou, who's the younger brother of Mateus over at St Kilda, Liam Hetherington, Max King, not the Max King, and Noah Chamberlain. All of them are 230Ks. A couple of mids and a few forwards. I don't think any of them play early in the season, or possibly not at all. So we won't be watching them. The only other two notable ins, Charlie Curnow, obviously will play. He's a 690k forward, and Malcolm Roses Jr., a 350k forward, will play as well. Probably takes the spots of some of their outs. So Will Hayward, the main one there with 21 games last year, averaging 55, and Robbie Fox as well, 18 games. Both of them kind of played a half forward for most of the year, so I'd say that he takes his, and maybe there's another spot open for a small forward. I don't really know who's in there, VFL side, but I wouldn't imagine it's a fantasy-friendly thing. Apart from them, obviously, Ollie Florent left on the 16 games, Aaron Francis on 10, Jack Buller on 9 games, Ben Patton and Caleb Mitchell, Indy Kirk and Blake Liedler on not too many games. So not too much change there, mainly just a couple of big ins that could change their structure. So let's get to some players that we're looking forward to for fantasy. The number one guy over there is Brodie Grundy, average 107 last year, was their top scorer. 1.12 million he'll come at this year. And I'm putting him in the hell no category, which might surprise some, although I don't think we can pick him. I have a similar stance on Max Gawn to him, who I spoke about when we previewed Melbourne. He had his highest average last year at 107 since 2019. He got close in 2021 with a 106, but apart from that, this decade in the 2020 so far, he hasn't gone above mid-90s in those other years. So, and there was that time where he came to Melbourne and they were trying to play him second to Gawn, and then there was the start of Sydney, which was a bit but I just think it's a no from me. He averaged 127 from rounds 9 to 21, so in 12 games, which is, of course, insane. We'd be stupid not to mention that, but he ended with a 107 average, which is my concern. He didn't average that the full year, because outside of that run, he averaged in the other 10 games, outside those 12, 82.4. And it wasn't like he was, that 127 was every game in that 12-game stretch consecutively, and the other one was his first 8 games and then his last 2 games. So it's not like he's going between the two. It's like he's playing as a different player. So I'm not sure which Grundy we're getting this year. And I think with an early buy and that round 3 buy, as is with all these players, it's just a bit risky. Sherry's a better option at a similar price. English, I think, is probably a better option at a similar price, although it does have the buy. So I'm saying no, but we could target him if we do start to see over the early buys, the early few rounds, that he is averaging that kind of 120 mark, and then we can target him after his buy. And I'll talk about English a bit later when we go through the Bulldogs, but they're two that I think I'm willing to. We spoke last episode about Jordan Sweet a lot. We spoke a couple episodes about Briggs a lot. There's a few of those kind of mid-priced kind of ruckman that I think we're going to be looking to upgrade pretty soon. So these are the type of guys that I'd be upgrading to after their buys. Any thoughts on Grundy? Has he made his way into your side at all? Or
he has a couple of times. He's been jumped in and out. But it's hard to pick him with that buy. But the thing is, he had such a strong not even back half, proper 10 to 14 games at the end of last year where he averaged something ridiculous. I don't have the numbers, and the thing that was so good about that is it didn't matter who he played. He kind of just did it anyway. So it doesn't matter if it was a hard ruckman, if it was easy ruckman, the points other ruckmen usually score against or not. He just did it anyway. So do I think he can do that again? Probably. I don't see him getting any worse, which is the thing. Yes, age is 1 year older, he slows down a little bit, but does he necessarily? I think he had what we saw from him last year was just so abnormal from a ruckman to do that on such a consistent basis that it's hard to ignore, and it's hard not to at least give him the time of day to think about having him on your team. But like I said, that early buy does make it difficult for me. It's up to that. He doesn't have the round. I think he's the round 3 buy. If I'm
round 3.
He doesn't have too many other teams that we've got players on. I think it's got Bulldogs and the Hawks, maybe something like that, and one other team.
And Gold Coast,
And Gold Coast, yeah. So we're not necessarily targeting blokes from those other teams either, other than maybe a Petrarca. So if you wanted to, you probably could hide behind him being maybe your only primo that you have on that buy. But then again, it's still a buy. It's still one less game you have with like a Tristan Sherry or someone like that. Which
Yeah, exactly.
can we afford to do that this early in the season? Maybe, but I'm just happy to stick with Sherry.
Yeah, and so if we look at their opening run there, if you are willing to hold him over his bye, we know Sherry has an amazing run. Plays Carlton in the opening round, so could have a good score there against Pitton and Reedy. But then plays Brisbane, who you would assume will be harder with. Although actually, it's been announced that Draper's injured himself, hasn't he? And he won't be back to round 2, so that will be a solo Darcy Fort. So maybe an alright score. Then he plays Lloyd Meek, and then the bye. But then after his bye, plays West Coast, which will be great. Jared Witt's at Gold Coast, which is going to be terrible. Briggs, which should be good. English, which should be good. Gorm, which could be good. Sherry, which could be good. So he's got a couple of hard matchups. There's not much of a run that I would be targeting specifically, but it's just that early part of the year, I don't think we can get fooled with those first 3 games of Carlton, Brisbane, Hawthorn. He's probably going to come out and average 120 in those first 3, and then people are going to jump on after his bye, but yeah, so just beware of that. But I think that he's definitely someone that I would only really be interested in after his bye.
Yeah.
With Sherry there, I feel like it's just a bit of a stupid move to put him there and hold him, or to play him for the first 2 rounds. But on to our next guy, Errol Goulden. Average 102.3 last year. He's priced at 1.07 million. I'm putting him on the watch list, so I'm personally not willing to start him with the early buy, but he definitely has some upside, and I can see people who would be if you're, again, thin on this round 3 buy, which I personally am not as much.
Yeah. Okay.
After averaging 112 and 108 in 2023 and 24, he went down to 102 in 2025, so definitely some meat on the bone. Although obviously he had that 71 against Port in his comeback game, where he sat on the bench the entire 4th quarter. So if you take that out, his average does go up to 105.7. So there's a couple of points of meat on the bone there. But we can assume that Sydney are probably going to be better this year. I'm not as hot on that as everyone seems to be in the media. I don't know. I feel like they've gotten rid of a lot of experience and bought in. I mean, you heard how many 5 or 6 230k rookies they bought in who are just kind of draft picks and nobodies. I don't know if they get too much better. Obviously, Kerno's a huge in for them. But if they do get better, I think that he gets better. He's the type of player that plays better when the team plays better. So personally, I'll be targeting him from that run post round 8 and after that, so up to his round 15 bye. So from round 8 to round 15, he goes Melbourne, North Melbourne, Collingwood, Geelong, Richmond, St Kilda, Port Adelaide. It's a pretty good run. Unfortunately, there's not enough data of him playing those teams last year to kind of see what he would average because he was injured, only played the 10 games, but that's more where I'd be likely to target him.
Okay.
Possibly even coming off a mid-pricer like a Darcy Parish or someone like that I can get up to. He'll be one of the first guys that I really go bang after we do our first 3 or 4 rounds of fix-ups and fixing our opening team. So I think that he's on the watch list. I'm not as hard no on him as some other buy players. He's obviously got meat on the bone. I think he can average 110 this year if he's fit, and priced at 102. That's elite value for a top 8 mid. In fact, I personally don't see any world where he isn't a top 8 mid this year. I don't think there's that many good mids going around. So I don't know about you, but I think it's an alright starting pick.
Yeah, look, once again, it's the same talk with the buy, and it just depends on who you've got on that round 3 buy. Can you afford to have an extra player? Can you not? But he's a gun, and I agree that I reckon he'll be top 8 mids. That's a good call. I do agree with that, so I don't see anything wrong with it. But then again, that buy. So I've been the same. I've been pretty bullish on that for the entire preseason, and I doubt I'll change. But it's just that buy scares me so much. Like it really affected my season last year, and I don't want to make that same mistake again. So I'm just really being precautious. And the more we go along, the more of these value players I've started to pick up and put in my side with the buy. So I've got a few of those that I now have, and it's like, can I really afford to do that sort of stuff with primos as well? So So if I'm picking any buy players, I'm picking more of the value guys. I'm leaving the primos up for blokes that have a full stretch of games. So. I couldn't fault you for starting Errol Goulden. If it works in your side, it works in your side. And he's a great player, so I couldn't fault you. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And just looking at last year, because he was injured, just played the 10 games, he did have that 71 against Port, played 74% time on ground. But after that, he didn't dip below... Well, his next lowest game was 83% in the last game against West Coast. But apart from those two, he didn't dip below 86. So from rounds 16 to 23, he went 89, 88, 88, 88, 86, 86, 88, 87. So he was back to full fitness. There was no easing him into it, really.
Yeah.
They did obviously put him on a wing. Didn't play many CBAs. His highest game was 46% in that last round with a 133. So maybe if he does get a lot of CBAs, that's a good sign. It seems that a lot of his higher scores are when he gets more CBAs, but I'm not sure what his splits will be. We'll just have to watch that. But again, I'm happier to just watch him, let him go through and see what happens by the time we hit, kind of round 7, 8, 9-ish.
Yeah.
And they hit their good run. Another guy I'm watching from the Swans, Callum Mills, on the watch list. So he's a defender priced at 90 at 944K. So I'm interested in what his role is going to be, whether he gets mid-clock, whether he plays defence. If he does play defence, the absence of Florent, as well as him being an upgrade from any of Sarong, Bice, or Roberts, I feel like that role is good for him. He can evenly share the kick-ins with Blakey. He's the perfect guy for that. Obviously, he did come in after Roberts was dropped and took those kick-in numbers. So maybe that's a sign for what's to come this year. And I think he could have huge upside. Also in the midfield, having averaged 111 and 109 in past seasons, playing in there. So also, I was researching him. He's only 28 years old. I thought he was like 33.
Wow, yeah.
He's a lot younger than I thought.
He
must have got the captaincy really young so he's not old. Obviously still could have his best footy in front of him. And priced at 90, I think if he could go over a ton, especially as a defender, even if he just goes 95, I think it's not a bad pick. Unfortunately, it is with the buy, and we're probably looking to pick him up afterwards, just because if he was priced at 80, then maybe you could argue he was enough value around that like Bergman, McKercher price to buy, even with the buy. But just at 90, I think it's a little bit too much to justify with the buy. But I'm putting him on the watch list. We'll watch him throughout the year. It's really hard to sell these guys with the buy. There's not really
we don't really know
a whole lot I'm interested in.
Can't.
Yeah.
I hear
just two more for the Swans. Charlie Curnow, I've put down. Just need to see a bit more from him. So he's a forward, obviously a 690k, average 65.8. So if he can show in the preseason and opening round that he'll be more around that 85 mark, which I don't really know how we're going to see that apart from scores, which is a small sample size, but still, I think he could be a good pick if you pick him, and he could have some really huge scores that could help you. He's always been a good draft guy, I think. So he'll be having people kicking to him as opposed to people kicking over him or bombing it to him in the goal square, as the Carlton Football Club did for years. And something I've seen mentioned a lot with him is playing on the small SCG ground. I think is going to suit him a lot more. He can lead right out. You think like a Buddy Franklin. He's like the new Buddy Franklin, essentially. Not to put that on him, but he's the closest thing we have in this generation of football, I think. And playing on that smaller ground could lead to him having some more possessions, getting around the ground a bit more. I often found as a Carlton supporter, he used to get quite tired and not, his 1%ers just weren't there and he wouldn't run and tackle. And I think as well, to that narrative, he's got 2 common medals. He averaged 86 before, so he can get up to that 85 mark, which by the way would be 20 points upside. And I think the Swans is just a fresh start for him. He can get his fitness back up. He hasn't had an injury there yet. So he can put all that behind him at the last club. I'm just not really set on him. The buy is not really a factor because I think he's enough value to bypass the buy. There are, as I'll talk about later with the Bulldogs and a player I'm keen in the forward line, there are a few forwards, Connor McDonald, Christian Petrarca, who I'm really interested in on this round 3 buy. So I think we want to make sure we have the cover for it. And so for that reason mainly, I'm putting him in the Seymour category. And then just the last guy here, Jai Sarong, just quickly. Price at 26.1, 274k. I'm locking him in. I can see him being used in like a back pocket, half back roll, averaging about 70 at max, I would say. I mean, he could go over that, but I that's probably where I see him at that 60 to 70 mark. So price at 26, that's huge upside. He's only 22, only played the 9 games, but Sydney obviously liked him enough to pick him up, and I think they'll play him. They're kind of missing that good half back, like I said before, besides Blakey, Roberts, and Bice. And Roberts and Bice are kind of, I don't even know if they're going to be there. This is kind of his shot, I think. 22, you'd want to be playing, more than half the games this year if you were going to have a successful career. But interestingly for him, so obviously come from Hawthorn, there's less competition for spots than at Hawthorn at the Swans. So obviously Hawks have Amon, MP, CJ, Hardwick. They've got a lot of that type of halfback even back pocket type players, that there was no real way for him to break in. Still played the 9 games last year, but I can see him breaking a lot more into the side that has, Blakey, Roberts and Bice. That seems like an easier part of the ground to break into at the club. So I'm locking him in on my defender bench, and he could even possibly play on ground. And I'll just mention, we all remember how great Bice was last year. I missed that 125 that he had as a rookie. Roberts as well was a pretty good rookie, and a lot of us had him last year as a mid-pricer. So the Swans can score off half-back, and I think that he could be a really good pick as a rookie, an experienced rookie.
Yeah. It's solid, man.
Any thoughts on those guys?
No, it's with those, you just gotta wait and see. We've got the opening round game to see if any of them jump out at us with a score, which would obviously force their hand and make us pick him in the side. But other than that, I've got none of them. I've got no Swans in my side. I've got none of them that I've been keeping proper tabs on. But that is the beauty. I mean, yes, we get to the bye, which sucks, but the beauty of opening round is we do get to have a quick look at them in a proper points setting. So we'll have that chance to see. So yeah.
Sorry, I'm just adding Jai to my side as we speak. Unfortunately taking a West Coast player out. So maybe this is a good time to hand over to you to the West Coast Eagles. I know you're very excited about this one.
Yeah, well, I am a massive Eagles fan, as everybody knows. So it's fitting that I've got the Eagles because they are pretty relevant in fantasy this year. And as of course, being the bottom team, they're not the most relevant with their primos, but it's their rookies that we're looking at. So I'll just quickly, the list changes that they've done, they had a fair few. So they lost Oscar Allen as a free agent. Campbell Tressa, we traded to the Blues. Jaden Hunt retired. A couple of blokes got delisted. Jeremy McGovern retired. Liam Ryan and got traded as well to St Kilda. And we picked up not too much, but stuff certainly to be excited about. We got fair few draft picks, which we picked up a fair few blokes like Willem Dersma, Cooper Duff-Tyler, Josh Lindsay are the probably notable ones to say. We signed Finlay McRae, Devin Robinson, and Harry Schoenberg from the SP. And then we traded for Brandon Starcevic, who was from the Lions. So a couple all right names in there, but a few to be excited about, especially those younger guys. So we'll start straight off the top. They last year they didn't average pretty much anything as a team. Tom McCarthy was the highest scoring player and he got drafted in the mid-season draft. So he averaged 83 as the top scorer for the team, and then it was Jack Graham, 82, and then Liam Baker at a 79, who was a bit disappointing because we all thought Liam Baker would be able to score a bit more than that coming from a new club and in a good role. But alas, he didn't. So for the top of the Eagles, it is Tom McCarthy, who's a defender, priced at 876. Now, we saw what he could do last year. He was an excellent ball user. They wanted the ball in his hands. He came in his first game and scored 100, and no Eagles player had done that year. So, yes, they're a shit team, but it shows that the skill that he has, he can do it in a team like that. So, it is exciting. He priced up 383k from when he was signed or something like that. It was probably fantastic, but he was a mature ager, so 25 years old. So now he's 26, or going to be 26 this year. He's a great footballer, but at that price, I don't know. I just feel like there's not as much value as there could have been. So priced at 876, he's priced at 83, I think it was, 83-ish, something like that. I see him going over it, but I don't see him doing it quickly, or if he's going to tear the house down. Now, Eagles do have a pretty good fixture right at the start, pretty much all the way up until round 15 when we have our bye. We don't play a proper hard team, but the problem for that is that as West Coast Eagles, we don't get to play West Coast, so every team's a little bit harder. But no, we start off with Gold Coast, then North, Port Adelaide, Sydney. So not the best start, but you got that North game, and Port Adelaide have been giving up a little bit more points as well. But then you got like St Kilda, Freo, Richmond, Melbourne, all in a row. Then Collingwood, Essendon as well. So it's actually not the worst of runs as far as points go. But then that's the problem with teams right at the bottom of the table. It's like, does the run really mean anything to a team that's going to lose pretty much every game?
Exactly.
Like, I can't see. Yeah. Yes, we've made some changes, but I can't see us winning more than probably 3 or 4 games this year, unfortunately. I certainly like to win them more, but whether we will or not is actually a whole different thing. So it's the that's the scale or like the teams that are playing harder, it doesn't necessarily work for West Coast. So we'll see that nonetheless. But yep,
probably my theory behind it would be, it's not a theory, it's pretty obvious, but when, I don't know, Brisbane play West Coast or North or Essendon or Melbourne, there's a lot of time at the end of the game to just kind of chip it around, particularly in the back line, which is why a lot of scorers, like halfbacks, are really good against these easy teams. West Coast don't really often have that opportunity. But there are some better teams that do give up a lot to midfielders. And this is another thing with McCarthy. Obviously, where's he going to play? There's talk of him playing CBA time. But that Gold Coast round one, they were by far the easiest midfield matchup last year, more than West Coast or North or Essendon. I think, or maybe Essendon were a little bit easier, but that'll be a good test. And then even Port were pretty easy. So I think that first 3 games could be all right. But my question for you as an Eagles fan is, where is he playing this year? Because that matters a lot to me. I would like to see him play halfback as opposed to midfield.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't see him playing in the midfield as much. Like, he was so important across halfback. You've got the midfield lineup for me, I reckon, is Jack Graham's probably number 1. Then it's Elliot Yeo, who comes back from injury, who we'll talk about a bit later. He walks straight into that midfield. And then, despite being so terrible, this bloke finished the year in good form, despite not starting it at all whatsoever. But the last 4 games, he had over 80% CBAs, which I'll also talk about later against the CBAs. It's Tim Kelly. So I see it's hard for McCarthy. Yes, he's an excellent player, but I think they need him off half-back. They give him that run. He started so many offensive runs like from half-back. He's too valuable to not have in there. And they want the ball in his hands rather than like being given to him rather than him having to go get it himself. I know it's hard to say that as a West Coast fan. It's like, we're not going to have that much possessions to give him the ball, but I don't see him, or at least not spending bulk time in the midfield. He might go in there every now and then, but I doubt he's getting bulk time, because you've also got your Harley Reeds and Willem Dersma, who we signed as well, who's not necessarily a midfielder, but definitely can play there and all that sort of stuff. Like, I don't see midfield time as too much of a worry for McCarthy. But
no. And if you look at their CBAs from last year, they're kind of just all over the place. Like, there's no real...
Yeah, exactly.
Harley Reid actually had the most over the year with 314. Tim Kelly, 270. Brady Hoff, 258. Elijah Hewitt, 265. Jack Graham, 202. Obviously, there's some injury and droppings in there that means they have a few less. But do you think they go to a tighter rotation? Because if so, I agree with you. I mean, Graham's above him. Kelly's, if he plays midfield, is above him.
Elliot Yeo,
Harley Reid definitely above him. Elliot Yeo 100% above him. You know, if he's the 5th man in there, I mean, he's still going to be playing his second time at halfback. Where I believe at a club like West Coast, a halfback role is going to be much more.
They're going to get a lot more footy.
I think
it's as simple as that. Yeah, the footy's going to be down there in their back half for 90% of the season. It's as simple as that. The ball will be in his hands, and he'll take.
Even if you look at their top scorers, McCarthy played at halfback, Graham midfielder. Baker played at halfback. Duggan played at halfback. Marek played at halfback. There's a lot of halfbacks in their top scorers, or at least defenders. So, yeah.
Like McCarthy came into the team in round 14 and had the 3rd highest kick-ins for the year. So it was Ryan Marek had the 1st highest, and he took most of the kick-ins throughout the first half of the season, and then come round 14, he really didn't take many at all. McCarthy had the highest for 6 out of the 8 games he played. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 8 out of the 10 games he played, he had the most kick-ins in the team. So they'll want him getting cheap footy like that. I think they'll want the bloke who's the best kick in their team, probably. It's not even bad to say that. Like, he came in and he made an impact instantly. I reckon he's probably the best kick on the team. And they'll want the ball in his hand. Yeah.
I don't like this narrative of like people selling him short as like, oh, he was the mid-season pick and he came in and was better than every player. Like, he's also just a good player.
He's a
like,
gun.
It's not,
Like, yes, we're shit,
but then the other side of that is, did he come in? And as a Carlton supporter, I feel as though I can say this. At clubs like this, there is a certain mentality where it just kind of beats you down, and you get stuck in this kind of losing mentality. Do you think that he had some success because he came in not having lived in that, and now that he's done half a season, done a whole preseason with him, is that going to affect him at all, do you think?
Oh, mate, definitely not for the start of the season. I think in the start of the season, everybody reckons they can win 24 games. It's as simple as that. Like, You can't you can't take points off a bloke because of mindset. I think I see where you're coming from. I definitely see where you're coming from, but that you don't tend to see that sort of stuff until nearing the end of the season, at least if you see it at all.
Yeah.
But yes, it's a real thing, but also I don't think we can take him out of their sides for that reason. But then again, not that we have him in our side, because I reckon a price to 876. There's blokes around his price who was so much better. Like you got Colby right next to Mars Bergman, who I rate higher, purely because of their run that they've got as well. And then just a little bit lower is Nick Newman. So you got blokes around
and
his
Sam
price
Banks as well.
Exactly,
Popular.
Sam Banks, who we talked about. You got blokes around his price that I just think that are probably better. And that obviously I love McCarthy. I'm a West Coast fan, but I just don't see him in my team. Maybe later on in the year, with any luck, he drops a bit of price by the end of the buys, and we can jump on him. But yeah, that's for McCarthy that I had, and we kind of talked about CBAs and kick-ins as well, so I won't go through them much. But joining the CBA mix and someone who is a known scorer and has dropped 30% in their price is Elliot Yeo. He's a midfielder at 667k. Bloke's the reason I'm a West Coast fan. Bush, by the way, I actually just love the bloke. He's got the same last name as well, at least my mum's maiden name, like they're Yo's, so there's a relation somewhere. But no, we're massive Elliot Yeo fan, and he is an outright fantasy beast. Like, he averaged 90, he's averaged 106, 101 back in 2018 and 2019. He's only priced at 63. Like, even if he gets back to like at 80, that's still 20 points of 20 points upside to where he is. I haven't put too much thought in it because I like value picks like maybe even Darcy Parish a bit more, although the longer I have Darcy Parish in my side, the less chance he has of staying there. So I could see myself backflipping to Elliot or something. But it's definitely someone to track the preseason on. I want to see those Amy games. I want to see him post some big scores in the preseason games. If he does that, he's in my side straight away. Because we know he can score. It's as simple as that. Like I said, he averaged 100 a couple of times and 90 the year off. Sorry, he missed last year, so 2024 he averaged 90.9. Like, and there's not much changed. But then again, it's West Coast. It's like, are they going to get that much footy? Are they going to be scoring high? It's the same goes for a bloke who's priced at pretty much the same, 664 as Tim Kelly. A bit different because he's a mid-forward status, but he also averaged 63.3 last year, and which is 20 points down in his previous year, and he played every game. So you got to wonder what the hell happened to Tim Kelly. Did he feel the loss of Elliot Yeo? Was the team feeling the loss of some big players? Like they lost Jake Waterman, didn't have Oscar Allen for a lot of the season, like that sort of stuff. Like they had big names out. Like Dom Sheed was injured from like the get go. So did he take a toll from his scoring because the ball wasn't coming to him as easily? Or was there something going on with him? He gained forward status because they moved him into the forward line, and they even dropped him at some point. Like, it was an incredible drop off, but we know he's better than that. Like, he's had definitely 3 seasons averaging over 93. I doubt he's gonna drop any more than 63, but like I said, Elliot coming back in the side, all it takes is him to get a few more handball receives, a few more kicks, a couple more tackles. He's back to an 80, which is once again 20 points upside. So, but that's the thing. You got to watch the preseason. You got to wonder. As it stands right now, I wouldn't pick him on my side because he played so poorly last year. You got to wonder why was that? How did that happen? And will it happen again? So, adding him to my watch list is so Tim Kelly and Elliot Yeo priced pretty much exactly the same. Just got to watch him. The one I won't give too much time is Harley Reid. You can add him to your watch list again, but it's kind of that thing. He was number 1 pick for them a few years ago, and it's kind of relates to the number 1 pick this year, who I'll talk about a bit later as well. But just is far more impact over fantasy, which is what we see and what we don't like as fantasy owners. I mean, I love as a West Coast fan because he's a great player, but he's like he posted 103, 117, and like back to back in around 17, 18 or something like that, or 18 or 19 last year. But it's just his average isn't that. He can't consistently hit those high scores, which is what we look for in blokes like this. And he's priced at 700. He's priced at about 68, I think, or 60, 69, something like that. Although I can't see him consistently hitting above that. If he can hit consistent 80s, that'd be nice. It's so upsetting to be talking about West Coast and just hoping that I can get blokes like Tim Kelly, Harley Reid, and Elliot Yeo to average 80. Like, if they were in other teams, we'd be talking about them averaging a ton. Oh, can they get up to that 100? Like that sort of stuff. It's like, if they average 80, that's still 20 points of upside. Like, if they were any other club, if this was West Coast of 5 years ago, 6 years ago, then we'd have them in our team straight away. Like, unreal. But it's the reality is they're not there, and all we need is them to get an 80 for it to be 20 points of upside. It's doable, but it's West Coast, so we put it on the watch list. So those three, I don't know. Can you see anything with those three?
Well, the one that I'm most interested in is Elliot Yeo. I mean, he's everyone's main concern is the injury stuff. So last year didn't play a game. 2024 played 20 games, was great. I think I had him in my side at one point. It was his first year that he played more than 12 games since 2019. And the 3 years before that, so 2017, 18, 19, he played 23, 25, 23 games, averaged 98, 106, 103. Then 2020 to 2023, he played 10, 12, 5, and 10 games, averaged 71, 83, 57, 70. Then went back to 20 games and averaged 90. So if he can show that he's... obviously that 90 is a hit from the 103, 106, 98. Probably because West Coast are not as good as they were when they were winning the premiership in 2018. But if he can show that he's back to that 90, what is he priced at? 63, did you say?
Yeah. We averaged 63.
Yeah, if he can show that he's back to that, if he can show that he's back at that 90, I mean that's 27 points of upside. That's huge. My worry is just the injury stuff, and part of me kind of hopes that he comes out in the preseason and does really well so people pick him, because I'm not as keen on him. And it's kind of my thoughts for a lot of these West Coast guys, is I hope that they can show something in the preseason. A lot of people pick him, and then that's where they start to fall, when they start to kind of crumble as players. And Tim Kelly, I'm really, really not interested in. I think that there's a bit of a narrative right now that you need your forward options, but I really think we've actually do have a few more than we think we do. And Tim Kelly's not someone we need to be searching. He's never averaged over 100. Obviously had the 98.7 in 2023, which was good, but I just don't see him getting back there. It is his lowest averaging year ever by about 25 points, which is crazy, but it's just not an area I want to shop in, because I'm unsure of his role. I'm unsure whether they're going to play him. Even if they came out and said we're going to play in midfield, they could just as easily move him back to the forward line. The midfielders just scare me because of how sporadic their CBAs were last year. And I haven't had any indication that that's going to change from the club. Like, if they came out and they were like, look, we're getting back to the basics. We've got some young guys, but we need to put good heads around them. We're going to put Kelly, Yo, Reed in there as our main three. I'd be like, okay, great signs. I'm more willing to pick these guys. But just them playing, Yo, Kelly would play like 60% CBAs for 2 weeks, and then 0 the next week, and Elijah Hewitt would play 80%, and then he'd play 0 the next week, and Brady Hoff would play 6. And it was just so hard to gauge as a fantasy coach as to who you wanted. So I'm more erring on the side of not picking these guys, but Yo is the one that I have confidence in can get back to some of his best. Although, how old is he now? He's got to be in his 30s.
Yeah, he's pretty old. Yeah, I think he's about 35, maybe a bit younger. 30,
Tim
33.
Kelly himself is 31. I thought he was younger than that. If my website will load. Elliot is 32, yeah. So, I don't know. It's just a bit tough. But I assume you're going to talk about some value soon, which I'm much more interested in with the Eagles.
Yeah, that's the exciting part about the Eagles, is that as a team so shit, they've got a lot of draft picks and they've got a lot of young players who are promising. So just right at the top. Pick number 1, Willem Dersma. Now, I had him in my side for a lot of time, but as I spoke about with Harley Reid, I reckon Dersma's far more of an impact over fantasy player. But once again, is the number 1 draft pick. I reckon a lot of people will have him in his team, so I'll talk about it anyway. Do you remember much of Brendan Goddard, who played for Bombers and he played for, might have even been Blues?
Yes.
Desmond reminds me of that. Like, he kind of just impacts no matter where he plays. He can swing him up forward and swing him down back, put him on the wing. Doesn't matter. He'll impact the game. So I like him a lot of that. Like a Brendan Goddard kind of thing. He played for Vic Country in defence and averaged 24 disposals, 5 marks, and 94 fantasy points, which is elite. Then he was moved to the midfield, where he in the Coach Talent League, and bumped his average to 106. So that is what I do like. Wow. If he gets midfield time, the bloke can score. It's whether they swing him forward, whether they swing him back, that I'm not sure about, which is why I'm a bit bullish on him at 350k. It's the most expensive rookie because he's pick number 1, obviously. So that's a full 120k more than your basement pricer. So can we be using that price somewhere else? At this stage, I am. But wouldn't be surprised if I have him in my side. But come round 1, he played in the VFL at the end of the year. Played for me, Casey Demons, and scored 80 and 79 points in the 2 games that he played, and played defense for one of them, and then a bit of midfield, and then on a bit of forward line for the other one. So he literally can play anywhere, and he plays it well, which is the thing. So he's a great player. There's no question about his spot in the side at West Coast, because he is a really good player. But it's that impact over fantasy scoring that I'm worried about. So we'll have to see what type of scores he posts, what kind of role West Coast play him in. The thing is that I don't see much confidence or solidity in any role that he'll play, because he's so good at a lot of roles that I reckon West Coast will swing him around a fair bit until he finds something that sticks. So that also worries me. He might be a little bit of a...
That's my worry too, yeah.
Yeah, he could be a bit of a... He might even be a TPP player at some point for our fantasy leagues. You never know. But he literally can play any position, bar maybe, ruck. But even then, I reckon you see Paddy Cripps, you see Ollie Wines to play ruck. So I like him as a player, but fantasy-wise, he's really expensive. So whether we can jump him in or not, I don't know. I've been mucking around with structure and stuff like that, and I just fill my team up with rookies who are priced around 300, 270, around that kind of thing, and it fits a lot better, and I like my structure with that a lot more, with that extra 60k from Willem Dersma used in somewhere else. But the blokes that I'd use it in are blokes like... Josh Lindsay, who plays defence for the Eagles, who I think is probably the bloke you just took out for Jai Sarong after you...
He is the bloke I just took out for Jai Sarong.
I thought so, yeah. But it's pretty much the same.
I do have a utility spot open, so I think I might put him there.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a great player. I reckon they put him in the 23, probably at a half back line. He averaged 22 disposals, 4 marks, and 75 fantasy points at the under-18 championships. And if he gets that half-back role, which is what he plays in the under-18s, I reckon he's a lock in our sides. He's got to be for that scoring potential. Now, you've got your Liam Bakers, you've got your Tom McCarthy's, you've got your Ruben Jimbys as well. But is that kind of it? The reason that I'm now properly interested in him is, as of yesterday, or as of today even, I can't really remember, Brady Hoff has injured himself. Now, not necessarily a half-backer, but it's someone that the Eagles have put a lot of ball in his hands. He got a fair few midfield CVAs last year as well, so there are points up for grabs, and there's going to be a little bit of shuffling, because I think he misses the first couple, maybe even first 4 weeks of the season. And other blokes like Brandon Starcevic are injured, and I think Dom Sheed retired, so there's definitely spots up for grabs that he can take. And I reckon there's bowl that he'll get. So I'm not too worried about his spot in the 23. I'd be interested to see is where he plays, whether it's halfback, whether it's back pocket, whether it's somewhere else entirely. But I see him. What I kind of picture of him is he'll start on the bench, wait like 5 minutes, then get in the game, and then spend bulk time on the halfback line, so that you won't be lined up in your best first 18s. But he'll be on the bench, and he'll come in best 22, best 23 now. And play a lot of ball for sure is what I can see for him. So don't be tricked if he's starting on the bench. I still see him getting that bulk defense time. But once again, we've got all preseason. We've got those times to take a look and see what will happen with him. Thoughts on him?
Well, I've liked him. I haven't done too much research into rookies unless they've been clubs that I've been assigned throughout series. I do have a few West Coast mids. I've got 2 more that I think you'll probably talk about. And there's a few more floating around. Obviously, Dersma you just talked about. I do like Lindsay. I've heard a lot about his role of halfback. It worries me slightly that I don't, unless I'm forgetting someone, is there like a notable good rookie that we've had from West Coast in the last couple of years that's really kind of popped off? I mean, Harley Reid even didn't really... I mean, he's at its most expensive price now, right? At like 700k.
Yeah.
I don't feel like he's ever really popped off.
McCarthy came in and popped off instantly, but he's a mature age.
That's probably the one, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of all I can remember. They had... who was the bloke who played in the forward line that a lot of people had? Indigenous bloke. Tyler Dua, he came in, didn't tear the house down, but he
was
up
all right.
About 200 in cash. He did all right. He got to 500k from a 230, so blokes can do it. But yeah.
I just worry about their... I mean, obviously their spots in the side are going to be pretty safe because there's more spots at a club like West Coast, but I worry about a club like West Coast's ability to develop quickly. And again, this is where I would like to see some more. It makes me more happy to pick these guys if West Coast come out and go, you know what, we're going to put our experienced heads where they belong, and we're going to let them nurture our young guys. And another thing that slightly worries me about a club with a lot of young guys like this is with the 5 on the bench, I don't know how clubs are going to use it. Are they going to start to play young guys less time on ground just to not work them out over the whole season? You know, are they going to split, you know, a Dersma, Lindsay, Duff Tyler, you know, are they going to give them 75% TOG each or 70% TOG each as opposed to, you know, playing 80 to 85% where we usually want our players? I don't know. There's a lot of questions for me, but there's a lot of good rookies at West Coast, and I'm happy with
I actually did do some research on that with the Eagles and how they used the sub last year. So I got the numbers up. The sub that they used was 22 out of 24 games. Sorry, 23 games was a first-year player. So 22 of their first 24 was they used a bloke from who was a first year who was some like a fair few of them were debutants. And the more interesting part is that it was only one time out of the entire season that the sub was used in the fourth quarter or later. So all of them had been used. Over 60% of the subs were taken out halftime at least to get a new player on. Yes, a fair few of them were injuries. And one of them was Jaden Hunt. He was the one who was the sub, but they used the sub, and 60% of the time it was taken at halftime around about to get a new player on. So they were having new players in the team a lot, and that is a stat that really excites me, and probably not many people have taken a look into either. Take some pride in that, knowing that West Coast are playing a lot of their rookies and they want their blokes in the team. So with the new 23 players, 5 players on the bench, I just see it as being just normal rotations as normal for West Coast. I see them using that, and I don't see it as like having one bloke take a rest like I reckon St Kilda would do. Ross the Boss is crazy like that. I reckon that they'll play their players that they've got on the team. Like, no one will be on there for extended amounts of times, at least. I think it's interesting to see. We still don't know because there's one extra player on the bench, but the interchange limit hasn't risen. So there's still only 70 or 72 interchanges you get. So teams will have to rethink how they do it. But I can't see blokes being on there for too long, extended amount of time, especially at West Coast. They'll want to rotate them a fair bit, or at least that's what they did last year.
There you go.
Yeah. Another bloke who's priced at rookie price but is not a rookie is in the forward line, Devin Robinson, and probably the lock of all locks for the West Coast rookies or West Coast basement prices.
Yeah.
He's on my field at F6, I reckon, along with half of Australia's field at F6. He was from the Lions and couldn't break into their back-to-back championship winning side because, you know, they're elite and they won the premiership 2 years in a row. But that's not to say he wasn't tearing the house down. He played in the VFL, and 4 years he averaged 102, 98, 114 and 108. Like, that is he's averaged over 103 times and one of them was 98. Like, that is elite numbers from a player who is clearly AFL ready and just couldn't break into an awesome Brisbane side. Plays in the forward line, plays across half forward, plays across the wing, and sometimes a midfielder. He played, like, I think you'll remember that game where he played bulk mid-time in the Brisbane Lions, and the only reason I remember that game is because someone ripped his shirt off and he had the rig of all rigs and didn't put it on for 3 minutes, but he was playing midfield in that game, and that's how he's getting there, getting tackled, getting points up. His averages for the Lions weren't particularly good. He scored a high of 73 when he played. I think I've got that right. Let me just get him up again. Like, he hasn't ever been able to tear the house down, but that's because he's playing with the Lions. So last year he had a high of 23. So he played 4 games last year and scored 23 as a high. All 4 of the games he was a sub. 9% time on ground, 16% time on ground. Like, he wasn't getting in. He's played the sub. But you look back to 2023, and I was right. Yeah, he played most games that year and scored high of 67 against the Hawks, 61 against the Tigers, and 61 against the Pies. So he can score. We know he can score when he has the time on ground. And hey, as a known AFL player, someone who's ready to play the game, what better club to go to if you want to boost your time on ground than the West Coast Eagles? Like, his spot in the side doesn't worry me at all. I think he's definitely in the best 22, probably even the best 18. Where they play him, I'm not sure. Whether they play him in the back line, whether they play him in forward, half forward like they do, or whether they give him some CBAs. But priced at 232K, it really doesn't matter. Like,
Doesn't matter.
if he
Yeah.
averages 60, that's still like 40 points upside, and that's what you want out of your rookie price guys. If they can hit 60s consistently and have a few ceiling scores, it only takes one ceiling score to get your cash gen boosting, and then you can just hit 60s and you're up 400K in 5 weeks. Like,
Yeah.
it's I think he's an absolute lock. His spot in the side is locked in. I don't think I need to see much from him. Obviously, if he comes out and plays a lockdown defensive role and he doesn't score much points at all, but even then, I don't see him averaging under 50. Like, what do you think? What do you think he averages for the year?
The only thing I need to see from him is the role because of where I'm putting him. Like, am I playing him F6 or am I going to play him on my benches? If he's playing in the back line or getting CBAs, he's F6 locked in. Because there's not too many forward... There's a few forward rookies, but not too many that I'm willing to play on field. Leo Lombard's actually one that I've only recently heard about. Could play a lot this year. So
Yeah,
I'm pretty
I'll put
keen
him
on
on my
him.
side,
So it's
yeah.
between them two at my F6 as to for both of them where they play. But just looking at Robinson quickly, so his two kind of more full years, 2023 and 2021, he played 16 games in both of them. So I'll just read out some of his scores from 21, which obviously is now 5 years ago, so a while ago. But he had a 93, a 75, a 70, a 72, a 79, an 81, a 78. So some pretty good scores in there. Go forward to 2023, where he played another 16 games. Obviously, you read out before 67, 61, 61, 58, a couple of 55, so maybe a bit less. But he was kind of playing at Brisbane, at least, back pocket, half-back flank, it looks like, and a lot of defence time. Kind of pushing up the ground a bit more, so I wonder if maybe West Coast play him there. But if we look to last year, he was obviously the sub, so it's hard to gauge where he was, but he kind of played a little bit more in the middle of the ground as maybe like a wing, so I could also see them playing him there. But yeah, I'm not too sure where he plays, and that'll be the interest for me over the preseason, as to whether it's only interest as to whether I play him at F6 or F7 or 8. Like, I'm picking him regardless at 232K. Like, it's so much value.
Yeah, and that's so he's definitely a lock in the side. But you're right, whether he's on field or whether he's on the bench, I see that for sure. Other than Dev Rob, Lindsay, Willem Dersma, the only other one that I talk about is actually just like probably my favourite player in the West Coast Eagles, and that's Bo Allen. I actually love the bloke for no other reason.
You were going to talk about it.
I'm not going to give him too much airtime. Look, he's a great player. I reckon he's in the 22. But impact over fantasy, I don't think he's going to score more than 50, more than 60. As a lockdown defender, he is a great player, but I don't see him scoring. So he's in my side, but unfortunately, it pains me to say it, he's in my side as a placeholder, and I don't think he'll start the season there. Once we find some,
He's actually in my side as well.
Yeah,
believe it or
like,
not.
because he's cheap. He's 246. Like, if you want a green dot rookie, he's the guy. But I like Lindsay for scoring more. And the reason he's out of my side is because he convinced me with Jai Sarong, so I literally changed that today. So Jai Sarong and Lindsay are on my defender bench with Yuland on field. And I've only got the one rookie on field because I got Blackiston, which we'll talk about next week on Thursday when we do defender previews. But he just doesn't fit in my side. And I got Sam Grill from the Tigers in my utility. So not much spot for Bo Allen to fit into my side, unfortunately. But he's going to be a green dot for the maybe not for the season, but I reckon he's green dot easily for the start of the season once he got a couple injuries. I don't see him not breaking into that 22. So if we want a green dot rookie, then Bo Allen's the bloke. I love him, but fantasy wise, we'll have to wait and see. So, and that's apart from him, that's kind of it for the Eagles. So I've got you're adding Elliot Yeo, maybe Tim Kelly, maybe a Harley Reid, but mostly Elliot Yeo to your watch list. Tom McCarthy, he's great, but I reckon there's other blokes better around his price. Willem Dersma, you could lock in. We've got to wait to see where his role is. Lindsay, personally, I'm locking in. Each to their own. I reckon he'll have that halfback role. Dev Robinson is an absolute lock, whether it's field or bench, we're not sure. And then Byron, we'll have a look. But it's West Coast Eagles. They'll have a lot of rookies coming in and out of that side, so just keep an eye. They're probably a team to have your green dots. One red dot that is an absolute lock on my team for now is Harry Barnett in the ruck, because West Coast plays so many Sunday games. He's your perfect looper, I reckon. That's if you're not playing a Reedy or someone like that. I like the red dot. If you're playing the red dot game, I like Harry Barnett as the red dot. So
yeah, for sure. There you go. That's the Eagles. And we move on to the last club. Wow. We've got through it. We've got through it almost.
Yeah.
And the Bulldogs are not hugely relevant, to be honest. They have been in past years, but there's not a whole lot. There's a couple of players that are interesting, so we'll quickly go through last year. Their CBAs were not interesting, but it makes them interesting for this year with Adam Treloar coming back, which obviously will come up a lot here. So Ed Richards was really the main guy in there with 532 CBAs, played every single game. Libba was next with 490, Kennedy was next with 400, and Bont was next with 379. So my interest here is that if Treloar comes back, he probably plays CBAs, or maybe a wing where he did play last year when he came back in from injury. But I'm also not sure if that was just because he was injured and they didn't want to play him straight in there. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like in the preseason. But for mine, Richards is the lock. He's the young player, the young gun in there. And apart from that, I don't think anyone else is a lock. Maybe Liver, but I could also see him moving. You know how sometimes they'll move like a Pendlebury or a Boak or someone like that just to like a half forward, just because or like an Ollie Wines, just because they don't want him in the midfield anymore. Yeah. So I could see them doing that with Liver.
It's those type of players that are that is the cold wing. When they go to a wing, that is the cold wing, and you know it. So,
yeah. So we're not touching Liver either way, but I think Bont could spend some time forward. Although again, he was fourth in line in those CBAs there, so might just stay there. And then I think Kennedy probably locks into some CBAs. He was pretty good last year. So Treloar coming back is interesting. I'll talk a bit more about that later. For the kick-ins, Bailey Dale's the main guy, but we will talk about a guy later that could take some off him. Ruck contest, it's Tim English. It's like what I said with Brody Grundy. It's pretty straightforward. Not too much to look at there. Sam Darcy obviously takes the seconds, so that'll stay about the same. Let's look at their ins and outs. So Lockie Carmichael is a 270k defender mid, taken at pick 21. He did suffer an ankle injury about a week or two ago in match sims, so we're just going to cross him off for now, but we'll still watch him. I know a few people were hot on him as a defender rookie. Lewis Emmett, 246k ruck. He won't play. He'll just be ruck. Depth, you would think. Will Darcy is a 230k defender forward. So Sam Darcy's brother. Haven't heard much noise around him. He's a threat as a key position player at both ends, can play defense and forward. So it could be handy if they want to play him throughout the year. But I don't see him playing too much. Although they did lose two key position players at either end of the ground in Liam Jones and Hugo Hagen. Jones played 5 games, Hugo Hagen didn't play any, so I don't see them using him at all. Yeah. And the other inclusion, the big inclusion that I want to talk about today is Connor Buderick at 506k forward. So he's the main one. I think he takes Johannesson's game time. He played 16 games last year for an average of 55. He moves back to the back line where he plays well, Buderick, after spending some time in the forward line at the Gold Coast and not really being able to fit in their side. So I think he could contribute to some kick-ins. But yeah, we'll talk about him later. Others that left, Caleb Poulter on 7 games, Taylor Duray on 5 games, Anthony Scott didn't have a game, so not too many changes for the Dogs there. But let's go into their players, and we look to the top to Marcus Bontempelli, average 111.3, 1.16 million you'll get him for. I need to see more from Bont. It's Bont. Like, that's kind of all you have to say a lot of the time. A lot of people just pick him for the name. But I'm not picking him because of the bye, and I can also see him going a little down from 111. I feel like over the preseason, people try to make the argument that everyone is going up, and it just can't happen. Like, someone has to go down.
Yeah.
And I feel like of all the top midfielders, Bailey Smith could average that again. Jordan Dawson will go above 110. We're seeing Caldwell and Merritt go up. The Sarong and Brayshaw are going to go up. Like, someone has to go down, and for me, it's Bont. So Treloar coming back, the squeeze in the midfield. Even young guys like Sanders or Freya could make way for some midfield time, but not a huge amount. So I could see Bont spending some time forward to bring them in for some. I don't know. I don't know where they want to best use him as well. So it's not the end of the world if he goes down, and we don't have to pick him. I don't think. I couldn't see him averaging under 105 even if he does play forward, because he doesn't score too bad forward because he usually just plays some midfield time. But I'm just not picking him at the bye. So I need to. If I saw that he was main midfield guy, they're going, we need to win the midfield battle. We're playing Bont 100% midfield time. Maybe I'd be more convinced that he could go like 115. But yeah, I think he's just too much at 111. And the next guy who I'm putting on the watch list, Tim English. So he averaged 110 last year. He's 1.16 million. I'm putting him on the watch list. I'm not willing to start with him with the early buy. I'm not as cold on him as I was with Grundy, but I think it's a good alternative if you think that... if you're a big believer that these ruck rules are really going to change some things, I would tick off Tim English because we're assuming that Sherry is going to be the one that is affected the most from these. And English is probably the one that's going to be affected the least or even possibly benefit from them. He does get around the ground a lot. He's arguably best suited for this change. He's a part of transition. He goes straight to the forward line after a CBA. So he's pretty good at doing all that kind of stuff. So I could see picking him. And last year, again, average 110 went kind of unsung by a lot of people last year. So could he get back to that 118 from 2023 is my question. I don't think so. He had a great year that year, and I think that he went a bit overs. But I think for me, in terms of where I look for him in my side, is I could possibly see myself upgrading from like Briggs or Sweet if you're going one of those options, like I talked about with Grundy after the buys. And if by round 5 or 6 I have Sherry and English as my 2 rucks, set and forgets, English's buys passed, maybe he's even gone down a bit. I haven't actually looked at the early fixture, I'll do that now. But if I can have him locked in there R2 or R1 with Sherry, that's perfect. So yeah, plays a solo forward opening round, then Briggs and O'Brien. So actually some pretty tough matchups there that he could go down in price a bit. Ooh, this is juicy. By round 3, after the bye, round 4 plays Essendon. Ooh. Round 5 plays Lloyd Meek. Round 6 plays Geelong. And then plays Grundy. But then plays Sean Darcy, Luke Jackson, possibly, which could be easy. Sweet has been relatively easy. Carlton could be easy. Then he goes Gawn, Cameron, Meek again. So it's that few games after the bye that makes me want to target him after the bye, I think. So definitely interest there. Not as a starting squad member for me personally, but definitely some interest to look out throughout the year. And as guys like Grundy and Gawn get older, I'm looking to build my team off the Sherrys and the Englishes personally. Any thoughts on English?
Yeah, no, I after going back and listening to our podcast about me rambling on about Jordan Sweet for no reason whatsoever, I got Breezy on my side, and I see going Breezy to Sweet, Breezy to English, on respective buys, like English has the round 3, and then you jump off of him when Breezy has his buy. I think that's probably the play of the year with the rucks, and that's certainly something that I'm penciling
100%.
in so far. So, yeah, can definitely see him because that's
definitely.
such a good run.
Yeah, it is a great run. We just hope that probably Briggs can make enough cash in time. I'll quickly check his run to see what that looks like, because so they play opening round against Hawks, which should be a great score. Then he plays English in round 1, which should also be a good score. Then he plays Marshall to Conning round 2, which should possibly be a good score, but could be hard with the dual ruck. And then Cameron in round 3. So yeah, he could make us a bit of cash if he can get. If Briggsy, what is he priced at now? 700 and something, 738.
Yeah.
If he can get up to that 850, 900k mark by the time he hits his buy, which I could see happening, then it could only be 1 to 200k to English, which is a great upgrade. You know, maybe you downgrade a mid-price that didn't work. But anyway, I think English could be a good pick for us to have throughout the year, but we're not starting with him. But a guy that some might start is Adam Treloar, who is available in our forward line. Average 69.8, but is priced at 90.2. Obviously didn't play too many games last year. He's 946k. I personally need to see more. I'm really not excited about this because I'm not sure of his role. He'll obviously be in the side if he's fit because he's an elite player. I just don't know if it's the midfield. I don't know if Treloar that hasn't played midfield for a year is kicking out Bont, Richards, Libber, or Kennedy. Like that midfield mix, they didn't make finals last year, but it kind of worked for them. Their midfield was not the problem. If he doesn't play midfield, I think he's on the wing. I don't think there's a whole lot more that he can do. I personally would love to see him off halfback. I think that he would average 120 off halfback. I think he'd be amazing as an accumulator there, but I don't think that happens. If we do get word, absolutely I would be locking him into my side, even if he was $2 million. Yeah. I'm just wondering, my question to you is, what is his best? Price at 90, what is the best you think he can do this year? I think it's 100. I don't think he goes over 100. I think 100 is his max. I think the days of 110s are past him.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think?
That's a fair assessment, I'd say. Yeah, like it's not... He's not going to be... He'll definitely still hit the ceiling scores, but whether that's enough to average him over that, maybe I'd say maybe not 100. I'd say probably 103, 105, I reckon. So not as big a drop as you're suggesting, but then again, you're right. 1 year older, gotta make room for the other guys. Like, what will happen? But I think just because he can hit those ceiling scores, Like if he goes 90, 90, 90, 145, 90, 90, that's still an average of like 110, 105. So that's why I see the average being so high. Consistently, if you take out those outliers, like he'll week to week probably 95 to 100, maybe a bit less. But those spiked games, I reckon, will be enough for him to average fantasy wise a higher score. But yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from.
Yeah. So the real question then would be, what is his floor? So only played 4 games last year. His highest game was 71% TOG, where he scored a 90. Then he scored a 60 off 67% TOG, a 94 off 69% TOG, and a 35 off 31% TOG. In those games, he had 24, 33, 34, and 6% CBAs. Obviously, the year before, he was elite. But even in that year before, what was it, 2024, where he averaged 110, he had great, 119, 116, 125, 149, 121, 154, 137, 125, 114. But he also had 87, 83, 84, 85, 90. There's a couple of 80s in there that if that's him in a 110 year, he's just averaged 90, or he's priced at 90. I think it's just too expensive. If he was priced around 80, 85 and around that 800k mark, I would probably be locking him in, I think. But my other thought is if he was just a midfielder, I don't think we'd be locking him in for value. And because I have enough forwards that I'm interested in, I just think I can afford to miss him. And I think that I'm willing. I would rather take the uniqueness of not having him and watch other people fall as opposed to take him and try and get ahead of everyone, I think. So he's not someone I'm willing to pick. Just going into another forward quickly, I'll mention Sam Darcy, 82 he averaged at 863. We're not picking him. I feel like this is just a pick based on natural progression. We've had no sign that he's going to do anything better. Do I think he's going to be better this year? Yep. Do I think he's going to win the Coleman? Yep, he's my tip for the Coleman. Has he kicked like 20 goals in the 3 match sims that we've all heard about everywhere? Yep, he's done that. But I'm just not picking a key forward based on the fact that he's had a good preseason and should improve. And he's already priced at 82. Like I would assume he was the highest averaging key forward last year. I just don't see how we can pick him again. I don't see him going over 90. That's his max for me. And then it's only 8 points of upside. And he's gonna have 60s and 50s in there, and then 120s. Like I just don't like that as a forward pick. To be honest, I know that you had him last year and he wasn't too bad, but I'm really, really hesitant to suggest him to people. I just don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Well, I'll go quickly into my last guy who I'm very hot on, and that is Connor Buderick. Now, I'm putting him as a watch/lock if I can do that. Okay. I want him in my side, but I can't because I have McDonald and Petrarca who have the same buy as him. So you really shouldn't have any players on the buy, but if you do, you shouldn't have more than 2 in a line because you're not going to be able to cover them. You only have 2 rookies on the bench, and even then you don't really want to be covering them with 2 rookies. But McDonald's enough value that I can justify it myself. Buderick is as well, unless I were to find the cash to upgrade Petrarca to Sheezel, which I think I have a bit too much pride after our Sheezel conversation to do that. I think I just for the podcast, I think I have to be the no Sheezel guy.
Yeah, right.
And I have to ride that for the year, and for you guys, I have to do that. I think, and I will. But if I did upgrade Petrarca to Sheezel, I'd feel more comfortable having Buderick on my side. So if you don't have Petrarca, this is a great pick, and I would lock him in. If you do, and you have McDonald, just watch it. So he's averaged 48.2 and he's priced at the same 506k. Struggled to find a spot at Gold Coast last year. The Dogs have obviously recruited him to help out in a half back spot, which is where I think they've confirmed that he'll play. Bailey Dale is really their only notable half back. Really, I can't think of anyone else back there that is really good. And even he got moved to half forward for a couple games last year, I think, like Whitfield did. So apart from Buderick's debut year in 2020, last year was his first year that he played over 8 games, playing 19, which was good. He averaged 48.2 though in those 19 games, but it was as forward, as a forward. So the 7 games in the last 3 years that he's had 1 or more kick-ins, so indicating that he's played in the back line, and he averaged 70 from those. Now, one of those 7 games is a dud 25, and it's nothing to do with time on ground or not playing in the defense. He just had a 25. So if I'm allowed to, I'm going to take that out as a dud game.
Okay.
maybe I'm reaching here, but if you take that out, he averaged 78. That's 30 points upside bang. And
Yeah.
regarding, you can forget about all the stats. I'm reaching probably 7 games over the last 3 years. Take out the one bad score. Oh, what a surprise! He averaged really good when I cherry pick the stats. But I could easily see him averaging 75 in the Dogs' backline as a back pocket, let alone a half back. I said before he'll probably take Johannesson's role, who didn't average a whole lot last year, but still was a good player. Yeah, if he can get to 75, you're getting 30 points. You're getting him as a forward. Again, another slight problem with him is I probably prefer Lawler as a pick, maybe. Without the early buy, I prefer Lawler as a pick. So it definitely has to do with his structure, and I would much rather him being a different position and not a forward. That kind of sucks. But look, we'll see what happens. I'm pretty hot on him. I think you can definitely pick him in your side. But yeah, that's the doggies. Any thoughts on those last couple guys that I named?
Oh, no, I think you summed it up pretty well. I haven't really looked too much at the Dogs purely just because of that buy. I do like Bitterick as a pick, though.
They're pretty
relevant. You summed it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you...
There you go. That's our...
Yeah, we've done our club previews just quickly before we wrap it up. I was just wondering if you wanted to... now that we've done all 18 clubs and we've gone through in a fair bit of depth, if you wanted to just say what your team was as it stands, like we can go through line real quick.
Yeah.
Just go through them. And then we can
Let's do that. Let's talk. Yeah. So in the back line, I assume you've also got Rosie, McKercher, Bergman, Newman, right?
Yep.
So I personally have gone, my D2 is Christian Salem, and I've got Yulin sitting there at D6, and then Sarong and Lindsay on my bench. Who are your other two players in the defence?
So I have, for a bit of value, I've got Blackiston as my D5, and then Yulin D6, with Lindsay and Sarong on the bench as well. Yeah.
Nice.
So I'm using,
I like the
using that cash
player.
using that cash in a different area just because I reckon he's the number one ruck for the Bombers. Yeah.
Well, in the midfield, I assume you have Butters, Steele, Parrish, and Jagger Smith, obviously.
I don't actually. Yeah.
Oh, but, who don't you have?
So I don't have Parrish. Just recently. Yeah. Just as I was talking about it before, this is literally a move that I made today. Like, the last 5 minutes as you were talking about the end of the Dogs there. Which is why I didn't have much to add. My midfield, as it stands, it looks like this. It goes Jordan Dawson, M1. Then I go Jai Caldwell, M2.
Oh,
so I go Dawson, Caldwell, Butters, Steele, Sarong, Will Brodie, and then rookies.
Wow, okay. So I go Dawson.
Yep.
Butters is my M2.
Yep.
Steele M3. And then I did play with Jack Viney, although I have heard that because I was hot on him when we did our Melbourne episode. He has had a little preseason mishap and he's in the rehab group at the moment, so I've just ruled him out for that. So I've gone Sam Walsh. I think that I just want to do that despite the early buy. And then I've got Parrish, and then I've got Farrow, Cummings, Smith. So I've really gone guns and rookies in there. Parrish, my only mid-pricer. Four guns, 3 rookies. I'm not so interested in Will Brodie anymore. I just don't like the fact that Ollie Wine's coming back in round 2 makes his role hesitant. And then I've got Rechko and Grill as my M7 and M8. Yeah,
nice one. Who are your rucks? I think from the sounds of it, I reckon we both got
Sherry
Sherry and
Briggs.
Yeah.
Although I do have Reedy as my R3.
Yeah, I've got Harry Barnett.
So I've spent my cash there. Yeah.
Okay, and then forward line, what's yours look like?
I've got, so no Sheasel at F1. I've gone Petrarca, Flanders, Connor McDonald, Sam Lawler, Todd Marshall, Devon Robertson, and then Indy Cotton and Leo Lombard on my bench.
Yeah, okay. I've gone Harry Sheasel number 1, and then I don't actually have McDonald anymore. I have gone up to Petrarca. So I go Sheasel, Petrarca, F2, Flanders, Lawler, Marshall, Robertson, with Lombard and just James Leake on the bench, because he's got that forward defense spot. And yeah, so I think where we differ is I've got the one defender on the bench, and then I've got Blackiston as my D5, whereas you've got Salem and your Newman as your D5, and that makes me have Petrarca and Sheasel.
Salem and Blackiston's a big jump, but then you've got Petrarca and Sheasel. I don't have Sheasel, but you've also got Dawson, Caldwell, Butters, Steele, Sarong. So you're essentially Blackiston instead of Salem.
Yeah.
And you've got Sheasel, you've got Sarong for Walsh, and you've got Caldwell.
Yeah. Yeah, the way I've been able to do this, it probably doesn't make much sense in your head, but a lot of my rookies, which is probably not the smartest thing, but I do have a fair few of those cheaper rookies. So I've got Josh Smiley, who was probably going to get a game at 230k, Jagger Smith 230k. The most expensive rookie I've got is Sharp from the Bombers, who's 302k. Then I've got Harry Barnett. I don't have any Reedy. That's another 190ish, 160k.
Yeah.
Lombard's basement. My utility is just some random bloke at this point, so that's gonna have to change.
Yeah.
But I've got 5k in the bank, so that's probably not how my team's gonna look. I might have to lose one of those midfielders or go back from a Petrarca to a McDonald, or something like that to boost up my rookies and get some proper blokes rather than just a couple of guys that I've got right now. But as it stands, that's what it is for me.
Yeah, my rookies are pretty. So I've got Hewlin 346, Sarong 274, Lindsay 278, Farrow 314, Cumming 326, a couple 230Ks, Grill 322, Reedy 394, even Bo Allen sitting there in my utility at 246. So I've gone expensive on the rookies so that I can play around with it. And that way, if I did want to change rookies, I don't have to change my team at all. I'm pretty happy with my team. The only guys that my defense, I really like my defense. Rosie, Salem, McKercher, Bergman, Newman, Hewland. That'll stay unless something happens to one of them. My midfield, Butters, Steele, Walsh, Parrish are locked, despite something happening to Parrish. I'm still unsure on that M1. Dawson could change. I've floated with a Brayshaw. I've floated with a Caldwell. I've even floated with a Merritt. So I don't know. I'm not too hot on Merritt, but it's floated in there. My forward line is where things can change. Petrarca, Flanders, McDonald, Lawler, Marshall, Robertson. Since writing about the Bulldogs, I'm really hot on Buderick. I think I just want to go like full mid price in the forward. That's my. I mean, you would assume if guys that we expect are going to play there, Flanders will pick up mid status, McDonald will pick up mid status, Lawler will pick up mid status, Marshall will pick up defense status, Robertson will pick up either defense or midfield status, and Petrarca's already got the mid status as well as Sheasel if you have him. We're going to be able to trade these mid prices out for other people. I just think that that's where I'm really willing to go guns and rookies everywhere except the forward line, and that's where all my value is because we're just unsure. I'd rather wait until after we know some good forwards.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that I can very much see myself going Petrarca to McDonald and then juicing up all my rookies. In fact, I'll probably do that as soon as we get off air. So that's what the teams look like for now. Well, that gets us a fair bit of a juicy podcast, an hour and 10 hour and 15-ish. It's probably our longest. But yeah, with any luck, listening to our round previews, or not round previews, our team previews, if I will, all 18 of them, you've been able to match your team, and you've been off the mark. Wait, on the mark? What do I say?
Off the mark and not off the mark. And we'll be back on Friday to start previewing the defenders. We'll be talking structure. We'll be talking premiums, mid-prices, your rookies, do a full deep dive, and hopefully mention some guys that we haven't in here or that it's been a while since we've mentioned them, and we can kind of give an update on them as clubs get back into their pre-seasons. And then pretty soon we'll have scratch matches and pre-season games, and we'll be getting right into that. So, yeah, we'll see you on Friday.
Getting exciting. See you then.